Friday afternoon here in the city of Lagos. It's the 26th day in the month of November 2021, and it's 13 minutes past 12 on the radio, and it's time for the big question on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Daniel Adaja. Today is day 2 of the 16 days of activism, ending violence against women, and today we're looking at elimination of violence against women. One of the most topical conversations during the COVID-19 pandemic was there was huge conversations around the rise of domestic violence against women. So many women are experiencing different form of violence, and abuse, and also sexual and gender-based violence were occurring during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that has raised a lot of talks on how then do we eliminate the violence against women. With so much awareness going on, it looks like there's still a lot of work to be done. And helping us to expand on this conversation this afternoon is human rights activist in person of Ngozi Nwosu-Juba. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Ngozi.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I want to hear from you as a human rights activist. When you hear about the elimination of gender-based violence, what do you think that we have not been doing right? Or do you think we're putting enough effort into eliminating gender-based violence?
Well, thank you very much. I think that we are not doing enough.
Okay.
Because the thing about human rights is it's right. Women have realized their rights. As you know, that what we are celebrating is not a Nigerian thing, it's a world thing.
Absolutely.
Which means that women's rights are violated all over the world. And the thing about human rights is immediately a particular right is achieved, then it will be on record that we don't even need to speak about women's rights, yeah? So that's what it means basically, is that we haven't achieved women's rights. And if we come to Nigeria, we are not near achieving it.
It's quite interesting how, you put it, because I think that we have been making some efforts. Why do I say that? Is maybe there is a lot more awareness now about issue of violence against women than it was in the past. But I here at Women Radio, one of the core things we do is we try to always raise issues like this. We try to raise awareness all the time. But COVID looked like it defeated us. It defeated all the effort we had been putting out there. How do you think we as individuals now can come in full force and begin to look for different dimensions to be able to break this culture of silence that has allowed for the violence against women to continue?
Okay, I also agree with you. Definitely there's been lots of awareness. There's been loads of things that's been happening in the past that nobody knew. So, for instance, if it was not for like social media, I wouldn't even know that it's possible that fathers have sex with their daughters, violate their own daughters. Yeah. So awareness is there. Radio stations such as yours, we do a lot of work. Some individuals, civil society organizations, we haven't kept quiet. We are speaking now. In the next 15 days, a lot is going to be said in Nigeria. Yeah. So yes, we are doing a lot. But as you pointed out also, as individuals, so there's something now around ensuring that no matter where you are and you hear about violence, you don't keep quiet anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I always speak about the work of Lagos State government. I am from Abia State, and I can boldly say that Lagos State is doing a lot compared to my state, Abia State. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know that in Nigeria, in Lagos State, if you heard about a violation of a girl or a woman and you put it out there, the Lagos State government, through its Ministry of Justice, the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team, and all the partners, because they strategically put together CSO organizations. Women Radio is part of that space. My organization is part of that space. So it's not a government thing. So what we do is put a lot of pressure on government and say an abuse has happened. And then, of course, because we are watching, action or something happens. So that's why I'm saying, to some extent, as individuals and as groups, in Lagos State, we're actually doing a lot. But I think that we have to do more. And doing a lot is not just for us to shout and it stops there. Do you understand? That's why I'm worried. And that's why I spoke about the fact that we are not doing enough. So, for instance, there's been lots of abuses that happened in the past. Not so recently, in Kogi State, a politician was born, a female politician. Yeah? And I'm bringing it in mind these 16 days that our government hasn't done anything. People who we should hold to account, people who are in positions who abuse women. We remember of another person who slapped a woman in a sex toy shop. We haven't heard anything about that incident. So that's why I'm worried, that we are not doing enough. Activists are shouting, radio stations are shouting, media, they are all shouting. But after our shout, what happens? Who listens to us? Who makes sure that cycle of violence and abuse doesn't continue? Yeah, that's my worry.
You know, we had Priscilla Osibaifo. She's the executive director for Brave Art Initiative in Edo State. And one of the things she spoke about yesterday, which I want to get your opinion on, is the fact that we have always been focused on the survivor or the victim of violence against that has experienced this violence. And we have not understood that, you know, there are people who are not allowing for these issues to go out. Now, she gave an example of the fact that when a child is being molested or something, that the child reports to a trusted adult, and that trusted adult is the one who doesn't blow up the case. Instead, tries to keep that child quiet. And you know, just like you rightly mentioned now, the case of the senator, the case of the late female politician that was burnt to death, and there are people who are not just allowing for these perpetrators to be punished and brought to book. How can we change that narrative?
And so we actually do have loads of education, require loads of education. I also remember recently when there was an issue of alleged abuse by a popular actor, yeah?
Okay.
And then it was an allegation, and I went to social media and I saw what people were saying. You know, It's almost like you are the devil when you speak up about violence against women and girls. And so survivors, they are there in the spotlight, but the people who have abused them at times, you know, they have support. That's why I'm telling you this thing is not going away, unfortunately going away, because we also need to conscientize ourselves, men and women, that when you feel abused, you don't begin to check out the survivor. Oh, it's probably from that person. We have to be committed to the point that we all call out violators. And some of us know them. You know, not people very rich ones. I'm even talking about the everyday young man on the street who would abuse a child, and people are justifying, and they are saying to you, where is the mother? You know, does that say that a child can no longer be safe in the society? Where was the father the mother when this happened? So I agree with what she has said. It's so important that we don't spotlight someone who's been abused. We need to collectively call out abusers. That's the duty that we owe our country, Nigeria.
This is the big question on Women Radio 91.7. If you are just joining the conversation, it's day 2 of the 16 days of activism ending against gender-based violence, and we're talking elimination of violence against women. Our guest this afternoon is Ngozi Nwosujuba, human rights activist, on the big question. You can weigh in and join in this afternoon by calling the studio line on 07000 917 917, or you can send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070 317 56537. Recently, I was on a conversation on Clubhouse where, you know, they were talking about battered women syndrome, which I didn't even know that there was a name to it, where certain women remain in certain relationship even though they have been abused or been molested in that by an intimate partner, and they are not going out of it. Now, how do we deal with the issue of intimate partner violence? How do we address it with the several religious and cultural barriers that are there to not allow for these issues to be properly dealt with?
Yeah, I think you started that. Yeah, you're giving part of the response already. So we are so religious to the point that even some activists would advise a woman who's being battered or a child who's been badly battered to stay. You know, we also have that, you know, it's the cultural thing when even mothers. So my organization is handling a case of a girl who was mostly battered all the time. I can mention her name is, what's the name of the battered girl, you know, Princess. She eventually died. We've just done an autopsy. We are waiting for the result of the autopsy, waiting for likely to get the report on Monday. She was battered, and then each time she ran back to her mother, they were like, I was also battered as a young woman, you know, just keep praying. And then she goes to her church people, they say to her, just keep praying, pray and fast. So if we followed her Facebook enough, and I feel so bad because I feel that I didn't do enough as my organization didn't do enough. Because anytime you check her Facebook, she's always, oh, God help me and my family in this situation, you know. Because what happened was that Lagos State government and then my organization were handling that case at a particular time, and then she moved to Ogun State, and so we lost focus. The next thing we heard was she was dead. You know? So our cultures tell us that it's so important to remain in marriages, even when it's abusive. And you also see young women who are even dating, and they're already being abused, and they are praying and hoping that this monster, you know, would eventually change. You know, that's why, and there's a lot of expectations from our society. You get to a certain age, we are like, God, give me a husband, no matter no matter how the person is. You know, and that's a trend we need to. So the way we glorify institutions of marriage and unions, make every young person, including guys, men also, think that you are worthless if you are not in a relationship. So it's a societal rethinking that has to happen. And if I know a number of friends of mine who say, I will not marry, and society is judging them. Now, why won't you marry? Didn't they give birth to you? Isn't not somebody that will, if your father didn't marry your mother, So all those things, I don't know how long it's going to take us, but that orientation needs to begin to change, because it's better to be alive than to die because you are running into a relationship. Absolutely. So that's the work we do. And then, of course, and I'm sure as people are listening to us and know that, to be in a relationship is not to do or die.
Yeah. A lot of calls with regards to the 16 Days of Activism have focused on religion and culture, on the role they play with regards to, ending violence against women and girls. How much impact do you think, religion has to play when it comes to us eliminating violence against women?
It has a lot of roles, because the thing is, where everyone belongs to one religion, at least 90% of Nigerians belong to either the Muslim faith or the Christian faith, maybe 10% are free thinkers. So it's so critical that, even us that are activists, at times we are not bold, to challenge stereotypes. Do you understand? At times we are treading softly so that people won't say we are not people of faith. So I'll give you an example. I was at a training and I was facilitating a training for religious leaders, and I said to them, if a sex worker comes to you and say, I've been raped, what would be your reaction? The religious leader said to me, I wouldn't have any reaction. After all, that person has sex with almost everyone. So why would I react? So long and short is, this man doesn't realize that rape is an abuse, irrespective of who has been abused. Do you understand? So the thing that needs to happen is that we, the people who are passing the message, radio stations, television, civil society organizations, independent activists, we really have to call things their name and be bold to tell our religious and traditional leaders. And at times, listen, if you have evidence. So if you tell a religious leader that we need to talk about sex, I remember that's how I started doing some research. Now let's talk about sexuality education, because young children are now being abused. And if they have some of that evidence, for instance, the Catholic Church was very reluctant to talk about condom and all those things. But now they are talking about it because there's evidence, yeah? So we need to do our work with lots of evidence to convince them. Like, for instance, that's why we need data and statistics so much. Yeah. We tell them, so a number of people have been abused. That can make them to begin to have a rethink, because it could be anybody's child.
While you mentioned condom, I remember the case. So the case is still being looked into right now. The case of Karin Hapok Apaga, the young girl who was molested in her school, and there had been several calls to the Ministry of Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Tollin, and the Ministry of Education to why they have not even put out a statement in ensuring that they fight justice for the late Karin, and she being the only child of her parent, and having helped the parents to get some form of closure by ensuring that the perpetrators of those acts are locked up or even sentenced to facing the wrath of the law. Do you think that our government, maybe at the federal level, or some of the agencies of government, they don't have a proper understanding of this particular issue we are dealing with, this issue of ending violence against women?
I actually do think that they know, because immediately it affects a daughter of a politician, or somebody high up there. So, for instance, something happened recently where people have just been killed on that road, Abuja.
Yeah, the Kaduna Abuja highway.
Yeah, do you understand? People have been killed and kidnapped on daily. But now I think some patrol happening there, around there, because of someone that is considered up there has been killed. I think that they know that it's wrong, but I did start with mentioning the fact that we lack political will. And that's why I think that we're not moving forward with regards to ending all forms of violence against women and girls, and even some vulnerable men. 2 days ago, I was in court in Abuja. We had waited. There were 23 cases that was to be heard by a judge, only for us to be told that they cannot hold because the judge has decided to go for a conference. And these are 23 cases of 23 people's lives. And I flew in from Abuja and some other from Lagos. Some other colleagues, including CEO of Nigerian Women Radio, was also, we all flew from everywhere. So there's no will. They don't really care about us. That's what I would say. That's when I mentioned those two first cases. Who really cares? About what happens to women and girls? Who is prioritizing us? Are we that important to the government, or are they too busy, discussing other things than to even, bring people who abuse women to book? That's the question that, goes through my mind every time I hear about abuse of a girl. So if a federal high court does not know, they can send that reminder and say the judge is going. They had judges conference that was over, and then you now had another conference. Well, you didn't tell us. We just came through from all over Nigeria. So you can imagine what would happen to this family, especially if they have no one to speak for them. You know. And I talk about vulnerable men. There's also another man who had gone for his studies somewhere and was killed and buried. This is so rampant. You begin to wonder, you know, what's going on in our country. It's so unfair.
It's actually unfair. Because we have quite a lot we want to cover this afternoon, I'd like to, get to hear your words of action with regards to the 16 days of activism.
So already everyone is saying 16 days of activism. Beautiful, many organizations, Orange the World and all that. But can we, after now, can we just continue this advocacy that people should be protected? You understand? Should we continue this message, or should it end on December 10th? We should look beyond it. Our government, I think that we started by saying we are doing a lot. Media, we are doing a lot. Civil society organizations, we are calling the government attention. Religious and traditional leaders, we all need everyone. We need to remember that these people who are hurt are human beings like us. We need to prioritize humans. So I'm saying beyond 16 days of activism, can we ensure that we make our society safe? In some communities now, young girls don't go to school anymore because of fear that they might be abducted. I haven't been home this year. I normally go to visit my aged mom. I'm afraid to be on the road. We have to find money for tickets to go anywhere. I haven't done a journey of more than 1 hour by road. And that fear, I kind of internalized that fear, and I'm not the only one. And there are people who might never have the opportunity to even fly that must take that road. The government must reassure us that they are there for our sake, for our safety. And when abuse has happened, which happens in some other countries as well, it's not something that it shouldn't be like we are in a zoo. It shouldn't be like we are in a society where people who hurt people get away with it. If we keep having that, if that rhetoric, it makes people lose faith in the government. And when you lose faith, it's like you are the bad person. So they should do all within their power. And then even the police who are supposed to protect us, they should also ensure that they are remunerated. They are also human beings. In these attacks, they now end up being killed because the people who are attacking or hurting people have superior equipment to fight. Government needs to look. I remember a policeman saying to me, "Madam, if I didn't wear this uniform, I would join you on this." That means that they are also not happy. To join the army force, you have to use your own money to buy uniform and boots. What are we talking about? Is it your personal business? How do you expect that kind of person to stand on the street for you and say, "I'm ready to die"? So it's a holistic approach that our government needs to, take into ensuring that we stop and end all forms of violence against women, girls, and of course, a few vulnerable men.
All right. I want to say thank you so much for speaking with us this afternoon and for sharing your thoughts and, for being our guest on day 2 of the 16 Days of Activism. I must commend you and your organization for the work that you do in ensuring that, women and girls are better protected in our society. Thank you so much. Women Radio celebrates you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. Thanks.
Yes. In the words of Kole Shatima, the MacArthur Foundation director, he says violence against women is a crime against humanity. Men fighting against violence against women are contributing to their liberation. I want to liberate myself, and I call other men to liberate themselves. This is my words of action for you today, is that I want us to remember that it takes a community to raise a child, and until women are better protected, there cannot be development. This has been day 2 of the 16 Days of Activism on the big question, and I want us all to take this charge as we go about our daily activity to see ourselves that one of the ways that we show our patriotism to Nigeria is when we collectively protect women and girls. My name is Daniel Adaja. We have special set of people coming into our studios today to come talk to us about the Future Women Award, and it's going to be very educative and very informative for you to be part of this conversation also. Good afternoon.
Every day, there's a reason to advocate more on sexual and gender-based violence. More women, more girls, more children are sexually assaulted, harassed, and raped. The 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence is a call for action to end all forms of violence against women and girls. We ask you to join us to orange the world and end violence against women by speaking up and reporting cases of violence against women and girls. Together, let us shame the the perpetrators and allow the law take its full course. Don't be the problem. Be part of the solution. Say no to violence against women and girls.